Well, we've been working on the Buddha way. I've sort of really want to bring on the heavy hitters during this campaign season. We've been working with the Buddha for a while. We'll today and next Sunday, and then when we go to Dances of the Spirit in September, we'll open up the Jesus way. Uh, these are the two heavy hitters in my life, and guys that have made me somewhat sane. And but we still have some work to do on the Buddha, although they're not two. That's what the sign means there. These when you get into the real heavy hitters in terms of understanding life, they can be different, but they're not separate, and they give us different flavors, different help. So we'll be working on the Buddha again, on his teachings of suffering. We've worked on the Four Noble Truths. We've worked on the 12 links of dependent arising, sort of, in terms just to really sort of give you an idea about them. I've been working on this for decades myself, and it gets deeper and deeper. But I'm just giving you at least an overview about it. And there are places to go to find, go deeper into the teachings. And these 12 links of dependent arising lead to samsara, Sanskrit word which means unnecessary suffering. And it's sort of like a gravitational field of suffering. The Buddha was into the understanding of the unified field, 2,500 years before Einstein intuited that there must be a unified field of everything, and he tried to find it. Yeah, Buddha was amazing. So today we'll look at just a couple more teachings. The Buddha is teaching on impermanence and also on prayer. Prayer is an uncomfortable word, and even people don't understand it, especially if you ditched your fourth grade Sunday school or Catholic school background in terms of all the prayers we learned. Well, the Buddhists have a different way of praying, and they sort of will maybe hopefully revive it. Now, impermanence is important in Buddhism. The Buddha has so many different teachings. He taught for 40 years. They say he taught 84,000 teachings. Just saying he was teaching his ass off every day for 40 years. Jesus maybe made 2 years. They were totally different cats with different temperaments, but it's amazing that what we got from them. And so impermanence, it's one of what they call the three marks of human existence. We've been working on the first mark, which is suffering. And today we'll work on the second, which is impermanence. And sort of by implication, the third, emptiness. So he says, if you're a human being, three marks of existence to pay attention to: suffering, impermanence, and emptiness. Yeah. I'm going to put the screensaver back up for a sec, if I can, just to share it for some of you late guys who came in. Yeah. This is a famous mountain. It's Kanchenjunga. It's the third tallest mountain in the range of mountains in the Himalayas. The Himalayas. That meant the abode of snow. Now it's interesting because Merton, in probably about a month before he was going to Bangkok, where he was going to die by electrocution, at not yet, just almost to his 54th birthday. So that's always amazes me to say that Merton did all he did and left the footprints that he did in less than 54 years. It's quite amazing for that. But this is from his Asian journal. He was in a kind of tea plantation resort, and he was hopping from mountain to mountain at that time, riding around with a Jeep. Somebody else was driving, thank goodness. Burton couldn't drive. And going from mountain to mountain, talking to lamas, Buddhist lamas, Tibetan lamas, and just talking shop with them. You know, if you read the Asian journals, there's some quite amazing encounters he had with these guys. He was a lifelong learner. And hopefully, that's something that connects with people in this group. That what we're doing now, you know, me at almost 75, learning. You know, that's what you do after you retire. It doesn't end there. You know, we're just supposed to hang out and just rest and conserve our energy. Maybe we'll live to 100. Bullshit. You know, get into it. These guys are lifelong learners. That there's a lot to learn about the sacred, which we have no idea. Well, here's what Merton wrote about Kanchenjunga. He had John Howard Griffin's 35 millimeter camera. John Howard Griffin was the guy who wrote Black Like Me and was a friend of Merton's. He borrowed his camera. He didn't own one. And he took several pictures of this mountain. And here's what Merton wrote about it. And it'll get us into this is purely, he's understanding impermanence now. The full beauty of the mountain is not seen until you too consent to the impossible paradox. It is and it is not. When nothing more needs to be said, the smoke of ideas clears. The mountain is seen. And seen was written in his journal in all caps. The full beauty of the mountain is not seen until you two consent to the impossible paradox of this, that the mountain is and it is not. When nothing more needs to be said, the smoke of ideas clears and the whole mountain is seen. That's from the Asian Journal. The lead-in song, which you might have heard, was "There Is a Mountain" by Donovan, kind of like a British Bob Dylan at the time in the 60s. And the refrain is, first there is a mountain, then there is no mountain, then there is. First there is no mountain. First there is a mountain, then there is no mountain, then there is. And then the other lyrics are sort of interesting. You can look up this song. He says, images of the caterpillar birthing the butterfly, shedding the cocoon. It's quite an interesting little song from Donovan. It's his famous one. First there is a mountain, then there is no mountain, then there is. And Merton's talking about the full beauty of the mountain is not seen until you assent to the impossible paradox that it is and it is not. Then nothing needs to be said. The smoke, I love this line, the smoke of ideas clears. You have that sometimes you can't see the mountains because of the fog, because of the clouds. The smoke of ideas clears and then the mountain is seen. Now, until you consent to this impossible paradox, that reality, we think we're seeing reality, but we're not. We're just seeing one side of it. And you name it. First there is a job and then there's not. And then there is. First there's a marriage and then there's not. And then there is. You name it, you can apply that paradox. And until you realize that things are and are not in the same moment, that they're impermanent. Now you see it, then you won't. Merton said paradox is how truth appears to the conceptual mind. Get that? Because when life is horribly complicated and paradoxical, like the fact that even the mountains weren't there at one time, and then they are, and then they won't be. Even mountains, which seem to be so solid. Well, how much less solid are this body and mind, or these things we think will go on to get forever? Jobs, vocations, health, vigor, marriages. First there is a marriage, then there's not, then there is. Maybe some of you know this. But the point is, there's a lot of suffering involved. That's how suffering and impermanence go together, because we have this fog of the conceptual mind that we don't see the whole thing. We don't see it, that things are here and then they're not here. And we suffer because they should be here. They should last forever, including our body and mind. Yeah, yeah. In ancient Greece, they had a contest. I forget what the award was, but they gave the award for the person who could come up with the most true statement of absolute truth about human existence. And the character Juan uh, had 4 words. I don't know if there was exactly 4 words in Greek, but at least in the translation, the winning statement about truth was, "This too shall pass. This too shall pass." That's pretty good. It's pretty good, especially it's really good news when you're in a pickle. It's good news when you're suffering deeply, which some of us are right now, no doubt. This too shall pass. That's impermanence. That's, when everything's great, well, then we don't like to even think that that's anything about the truth. That's bad news when everything's great and then it falls apart, as it will. Uh, yeah. There's nothing but grace, would be my take on it at 74 and almost 75. There's nothing but grace. And by nothing, I would spell N-O dash thing. There's nothing but grace. Okay, but suffering is a mark of existence. And people we know and love, if not ourselves, people we know and love are suffering. I'm wearing I can drop I think the screensaver now. Let me X that out for a minute. Yeah, now we're back. Uh, uh, I'm wearing this Palestinian keffiyeh. Uh, it's just, there's so much suffering in the world. And you can go all around your own household, your kids' households, the state, this country, West Louisville. There's a lot of suffering on the planet. Okay. And how do you relate to it? How do you even pray for it? Well, Buddhists sort of taught me how to pray. They have their own form of prayer. If you've looked into some of the Buddhist prayers, they have the loving kindness prayer, etc. They have a certain, they've turned the whole issue, you see, from asking Big Daddy or some supreme being, and it could be Big Mommy, doesn't matter, some gendered or not gendered amorphous being out there to help you to sort of deliver it, a little bit, our version of, more or less our version of Santa Claus. Save me, save us. Jesus dealt with that all the time. So did the Buddha. Buddha, when he was dying, they were all freaking out. He ate some bad pork probably or something, and he was dying under a tree, and all the community was around there. They were all crying and freaking out. And what can we do? What can we do now that you're going to be gone? And he said, be a light unto yourself. Jesus had to deal with the same thing. You got to discover that connection to everything that's in you. And the Buddha knew that. He said, be a light unto yourself and the community as well. Yeah. So this is a prayer that a short Buddhist prayer. And I'm saying this prayer, this is my morning prayer. It's my afternoon prayer. And it's my evening prayer. And it's, 25 words or less kind of thing. The Buddhists don't mince words. I just call it a simple prayer for all fellow sufferers. I used to put OFS after my name. Somebody told me I need to get initials to be taken seriously. I need more letters after my name. So I'd put BAMA, OFS. And I remember one woman at a retreat, she said, "Oh, are you a Franciscan, Father?" And I said, "Oh, no, no." I said, "I belong to the world's largest religious order." And she said, "Well, what's that?" I said, "The Order of Fellow Sufferers." We're all suffering at some time, maybe right now. Uh, so here's a simple prayer for all fellow sufferers and a way to respond from the heart to what's going on around us. Uh, there's a lot of suffering. So how do you respond to that? So this is what I call a simple prayer. Goes into what's really four parts, but then it's got a conclusion to it too. I've been working on this. It showed up in another poem I wrote too. So this is a simple prayer. That's why I say in the morning and at night when I'm laying in bed and throughout the day, really. May what needs to be seen be seen. May what needs to be spoken be spoken. May what needs to be forgiven be forgiven. May what needs to be healed be healed. Moment by moment, yes, we say yes to grace. Now, let me just touch base with that just briefly a little bit, and then we'll have a chance to sit with it a little bit and let it move from my lips through your ears and brain down to the heart. May what needs to be seen be seen. That's a basic Buddhist prayer because ignorance, one of the first poisons, the three poisons, ignorance, grasping, and aggression are the three poisons. The Buddhist, as Rebecca reminds us always, Buddha goes by the numbers. Jesus does not, but Buddha does. And what needs to be seen be seen. The unwillingness to see the suffering, the unwillingness to see the wonder, the beauty, the sacredness of life, the unwillingness to see it. Maybe we're too busy. Maybe somebody else, some other meme on Instagram has caught our attention. Our attention is constantly being taken away by these machines. May what needs to be seen be seen. That's why people will do things like, oh, wear a symbol of what's going on. I just sent out my 31st postcard on Gaza, uh, just to keep reminding people that this is going on. So easy to forget. And you could, there's a reason for years I took people from our parish here in Bardstown to Haiti to see it, and you don't ever forget it when you really see it. If I could transport us all to Gaza or Sudan or Congo or Haiti or West Louisville, or the urban centers, the really rough parts of all the cities, or just to poor in Appalachia, if you go on a trip there, if you actually see it, it changes you. May what needs to be seen be seen, and that's a prayer for everybody who's suffering. And everybody who is, because we're everybody. And when anybody suffers, we all suffer. Yes. May what needs to be spoken be spoken. Um, I've caught a lot of flack for speaking up for what's going on in Gaza. I'm not going to go into it, but if you don't speak up about what you see, or I can relate it to that too. If you don't speak from the heart truthfully to your spouse or to your kids or to your community members, that's you're not speaking what needs to be spoken, and so all kinds of situations go fall apart when we're not actually speaking from the heart. That's what needs to be spoken in any moment. Do we recognize that? And so I send that out to everybody who's suffering. What needs to be spoken. Now, the third part of it is true. It's mysterious. We're going to really go into this more deeply when we go into the Jesus way, because Jesus, the crime he committed is he forgave people of everything. He forgave their sins. They didn't have to show up at the temple and pay up then to get it forgiven. He forgave them. He said your sins are forgiven. Well, we'll have to unpack that and unpack the whole idea. But what needs to be forgiven, be forgiven. These all come from the heart. See, when you can really see the suffering, it's the eye of the heart. The words need to be spoken, come from the heart, some place beyond the mind. Now, people feel they've got to forgive because Christians should forgive or whatever. To be a good person, you have to forgive people. And so we can forgive people in the mind, but that doesn't cut it. When the forgiveness comes from the heart, then it is a kind of liberation. And Jesus was the master of that. And so we're going to get a master class on forgiveness when we really look at the Aramaic Jesus teaching. May what needs to be forgiven be forgiven. That goes out to anybody who's suffering by holding a grudge, by thinking you're forgiven, but your heart really has not. And then finally, may what needs to be healed be healed. These are like Russian dolls inside of one another, and the big Russian doll is healing. I'm wearing the Buddhist blue beads of the blue is a color in Buddhism of healing for some reason, and so healing is the big Russian doll. Forgiveness goes inside that. Speaking from the heart goes inside that, and then seeing goes inside that. But the big thing, the big kahuna is becoming whole. To become whole as the universe is whole. And we all need that. We're living sort of broken lives. And these are all heart prayers. So you could say this for anybody. Say this prayer. And I think it covers. And then finally, some seeing, speaking from the heart, forgiving from the heart, healing at the heart level, moment by moment. Yes, we say yes to grace. To say, we're talking about at some point, all of these things require a kind of surrender, which means we drop the armor and we let grace in and out. Our survival mode, it's necessary. If you don't survive, you can't thrive and actually become who you're meant to be, and also give to the world the grace that is just unique to you, that you can give to the world. But if we're totally locked in the mind, totally protected from the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, we're also, it's like a shield to grace. So moment by moment, yes, we say yes to grace. That's this moment, as it is, terrible or beautiful, friendly or fierce. There was a cartoon that had, a Buddhist-looking kind of guy saying, "I'm committed to living in the moment, just not this moment." It's really good. That's the thing. We're committed to living in the moment until the moment is not what we want, until the moment something's falling apart. Oh, then let me out of here. See, so that's, committed to the moment, not this moment, maybe the next moment. Yeah, yeah. So, so that leads us to meditation, to having a contemplative practice. That is the underlying theme of going back 4 years. If you want to get the thread of what I've been talking about for 4 years now, deep into COVID. It was, you better get a permanent daily spiritual practice. And many of the people I know are suffering, people close to my heart, do not have one, and they are suffering more. And they're lost in their own suffering, and so you can't help anybody else. It's sort of like your spiritual practice is the oxygen mask that you pull down over yourself so that you can help others, you see. And we all, there's, people out there, they need help. People in your own family need help. You need help. Uh, I need help. I'll tell you, one of the worst situations you can find yourself is to be like Mary. Well, there's three Marys, by the way. Most of the male guys ran away when Jesus was hanging on the cross. They couldn't take it. They were afraid me next or whatever. There's three women there at least. They're all named Mary. There's this Mary thing going on in the Gospels. But to be a mother and see your son suffering, and there's nothing you can do about it physically. You can't take him off the cross. Kids' marriages fall apart. Uh, Kids get injured, and then they die before you die. That's one of the worst things that can happen. And to be at the foot of the cross of a friend who's suffering, and there's really nothing you can do but pray. And you can pray this prayer. You can pray this way. May what needs to be seen be seen. May what needs to be spoken be spoken. Sometimes nothing can be spoken. We can speak from the heart without using any words. That's just by being at the foot of the cross, just being there. May what needs to be forgiven be forgiven. A lot of times when you're in that situation at the foot of the cross, you have to forgive yourself for not being able to take the pain away from your child, your son or daughter, or your best friend. It's really hard. And may what needs to be healed be healed. We have that picture of Jesus on the cross at the cathedral here in town, and then there's the women there, and Mary Magdalene in red hair, of course, is holding on to the feet of the Christ, of Jesus on the cross. But just the healing, it has to do with being in this moment. Yeah, this moment at the foot of the cross. You see. Okay, so let's shift into, that's enough teaching on impermanence and suffering and prayer for the day. Let's go into contemplative prayer, into meditation. Okay, so we'll make the shift. That's good enough for the talk, I think, Jill.